Hey, welcome back. Let's go for a walk. It is quite beautiful here today. It's in the 20s Fahrenheit, quite nice. And we've got a blue sky. It's all around great day. So we're on the main driveway here. This has been snowblowed. And so you can see it's kind of gotten down to the gravel, which is good because what we have when it gets warmer is that if you have a thick layer of compacted snow, you end up with a lot of slush, and that's hard to deal with when it gets warmer in the spring. And we've got snow here until usually into May, and piles remain even into June. So it's good to kind of keep it scraped down as much as possible. But what I'm going to do here is venture off into the woods off of the main road. And normally I would have snowshoes, but it'd be a little bit difficult to have the snowshoes and the camera at the same time. So there we go. All right, so I kind of blazed the trail here earlier. Let's see, just focus a little bit. You can see closer in. It's a little bit better. All right, let's go. We're gonna post hole in the snow a little bit because it's pretty deep. So it's definitely the time of year that snowshoes would be much better, but this will work fine. Kind of working our way over the varying topography here, and we're roughly headed south right now. So it's kind of getting to be almost into golden hour. If I take you up a little bit, you can see just the start of a sunset. So we'll kind of have that nice golden hour light as we're going here. So we shall continue. You can see following my path here. But it's pretty neat because we will encounter some animal tracks where the bunnies and the fox and maybe a wolf or two have been through here. We do have moose here, but this part of the woods is dense enough that that they wouldn't come through here. But there are other trails that are more open and clear that the moose do use to get through. And it's interesting that they don't always use the roads necessarily. They just mostly use the cleared border trails and things, which have probably been here for over 100 years. So now we're kind of coming in here and you see some different tree species. A good amount of snow. If I go up, you can see a nice mix of spruce, a lot of balsam fir, hard maple that obviously doesn't have leaves now, and some good size cedar. I would say the cedars are probably my favorite trees. They're somewhat rare, but they're very nice to see. So now if we go down a little bit more again, it's pretty dense. So you can see why mostly the critters that we get back here are snowshoe hare and ermine, which is a little snowy weasel. So smaller critters. Now we're getting through some yellow birch. There we go. Those are neat. And as I mentioned before, when we find yellow birch, they tend to have chaga on them. These particular ones are smaller, so they don't have it, but they're there. It's nice to see that those trees are there. If you get closer in a little bit and focus, you can see this is a characteristic of a yellow birch with almost like shredded like bark, like it's been shredded off. Very different from a paper birch, so if I see one of those I'll show it to you for contrast. But they're neat trees and they live a long time. They live for at least 60, 70 years. And the ones that are here, the sap in these trees tends to be higher in sugars and nutrients even than the paper birch. So when they have chaga growing on them, it's top quality, great stuff. So focus in the distance again so you can see. There we go. So now we're getting through some smaller maple trees, which some of these should probably be thinned out so the bigger ones can get sufficient nutrients, but I like having them here. And as we get farther along here, we're eventually going to come into the primarily hardwood forest where we tap those maple trees for the sap to make syrup. And also we make oatmeal with it and chaga and other things like that. Coffee. Here's a here's a fallen tree here. So we have had some windstorms here recently. Got some good sized spruce trees that have fallen. I think most likely these trees were standing dead, most of them, but I do encounter these frequently. The reason the spruce trees have died, mostly balsam fir and a good amount of spruce have died, is because of the spruce budworm that we've had coming through, which I think are just now subsiding, which is good. So these trees can recover. I think to a certain degree, it's good for them to be dying off to prevent the forest here from getting too dense. And so as they kind of die off and free up space, first what you'll see is pioneer species like aspen, which is, here's a type of willow, like a quaking aspen trees, and also balsam fir, new balsam fir. But the aspen trees are nitrogen fixers, so they're improving the nutrients in the soil, the micronutrients for the soil biome, and ultimately leaves healthier ground for new trees to grow. And so it's a good thing for things to get kind of cleared out and for those pioneer species to come in. It leads to a healthier overall ecosystem. So again, you can see this is just pretty dense, and really when we get into the spring, we should come back here again with a hatchet and handsaw and work on kind of clearing out this border trail so we can get through a little bit easier. But it's all right. There we go. How about some maple there? You can see some more trees that were kind of blown down. And some nice maple in the foreground there. Little, small maple tree, but nice to see. All right, so off we go. Kind of stuck in some branches here. Probably hear that. So now we're kind of heading west a little bit. Turn a little bit to the south. Big spruce tree. So we're off the trail here a little bit, but if you look, you can see tracks from Snowshoe Hare. So they kind of work their way through here. You can see them a little bit better now. So this has just been one through here, but typically what you'll see is they'll make a path and they'll reuse it. This one apparently has only been used one time since the last snowfall, but typically it's like a Snowshoe Hare highway. Very quiet back here. It's nice to be able to come back here and just think about things. If you don't do that, I highly recommend it. How do you like that? So that's just a little balsam fir tree right there. And just the open woods in the background, a little bit of sunset. Very quiet. It's been a little bit warm today, probably in the 30s. I've seen some melting. So there's some ice. If I take you up, you can see ice on the branches up here. I'll focus on that. So if you can see, I don't know if you can, but the branches have been icy. And a little bit of what you hear, if you do, is the chunks of ice on the branches falling down onto the forest floor. Pretty neat. Things happen pretty slowly back here. Not a lot of action, but that's the way we like it. I'm going to work my way back to the trail. Here's another Snowshoe Hare trail. See that? Interesting. So you wonder, where were they going? Or were they running away from something? Sometimes you'll see the tracks of the Snowshoe Hare with something, probably fox or something like that, following close behind. It does happen from time to time. That's pretty neat to see. Let's work our way around here. That's pretty nice. Nice wintry forest view there. So if you want to know when you see a tree like this, and it's a deciduous tree without branches growing on it, if you want to know what species it is and you're not quite sure, one way to distinguish a maple tree is that you have opposing branches. So you can see kind of the V's on there. If that were an aspen tree, it would not have the V kind of opposing small branches there. Also here you can see it up here where you have branches coming out on the opposite side of this part. Another characteristic of a maple tree is it's kind of gnarly bark. And there are soft maples, red maples, that have a little bit smoother bark, but this is suggestive of a hard maple or sugar maple. Those are nice to see. Because they're not common, they take a long time to grow. course, we don't do anything to plant them, but knowing that they're here on their own, wild, is nice because they're an important resource here. And they have been for centuries. Now there's a paper birch. You can compare this to, just a second here. There you go. So here's a paper birch that you can compare to the yellow birch that we saw earlier. It still has the peeling bark, but it has less of a shredded look, and it's generally smoother white bark. Whereas the yellow birches are distinctly more golden, and the bark has sort of a completely shredded look to it. So I like seeing any birch tree, but the paper birches don't tend to have chaga on them. So especially the yellow birches are the ones that I look for when I'm out here. I'm actually going to work my way back over here. So that's a critter trail there. It's actually a critter crossing. So that's Snowshoe Hare crossing, I'm guessing fox. It's fairly narrow. Wouldn't be a raccoon, I don't think. Could be weasel, could be an ermine. I think it looks a little bit too big for that, but it would be good to get some more trail cameras out here so that we can get a better idea of who's using the highway, who's using the road system. Off we go. Here's a nice view. Here's the confluence of the human tracks and the critter tracks. Again, it's just so quiet. Very nice to be able to just come back here and reflect. I hope that it brings you some relaxation to do the same just by taking in the views. We're still generally continuing west here along the trail. And I know I'm going relatively slow. I hope you don't mind. I do not have snowshoes on. It'd be difficult to work with the snowshoe straps and everything and handle the camera at the same time. This is certainly unfiltered and unedited. Work our way through there, and we're still following the track that I made earlier. There's a nice view. Things are challenging in the world today, so I hope you can take this in and just see through the beauty of nature, the beauty of God's creation, and know that you're loved and that there's always beauty and goodness in the world. And that your life has purpose. And if you're feeling like you don't know quite what that purpose is, just pray and trust and believe in yourself. Reflect on the things that bring you joy, that you feel some affirmation when you do those things. And sometimes all it takes is just being outside like this and kind of entering into the eminent balance of nature. Maybe we need to feel small sometimes. And so through that, we're reminded that we play a part in the world, but we don't need to be the main character. At the same time, that role that we play is critical and beautiful, that we're made for something great, to help bring some semblance of love and of peace into the world. There's a yellow birch again, and that is a living tree, so that is really nice to see. Really nice to see that tree. So if I look back on the trail here, focused in a little bit close, but you can get a feel for where we've been. Looking back sort of to the east, focus a little bit there. Yeah, now you can get a little bit better view. And now we're getting into mostly balsam fir and significant hardwood, as this is the sugar maple forest where the trees are tapped for maple syrup and everything else that we do with the maple sap. So there's the view. Now we really are getting into golden hour. It's certainly an hour, within the hour before sunset. And so with that, I hope you're having a fine day. And I appreciate that you've taken this time just to wander around in the woods in such a information-dominated age, the age of information overload. So I hope the rest of your day goes well, and that your process of discovery for what that greater purpose is for your life goes smoothly, and that you enjoy the process of discernment. So take care now, and may God bless you.